can't notice patterns. Now, if I wanted to imitate one of the archetypes as a medium, as a universe, I would have made this video first and just randomly talked about something, and then whatever I was talking about on this topic would then be moved upon for a couple, and then retroactively backed up. So instead, here's what we're doing. Just moving on to episode 4 of this thought process. So, had a chance to, about 30 seconds, start the upload of the last video. Who knows what order they'll come out in. That'll be hilarious. So now we've kind of got establishment of the feeling of episode 4. Episode 4 being the first. Of course, we know the pop culture impact that it had. What are archetypes? You've got the shadow, you've got the hero. Shadow's not the same as the villain all the time. Depending on various circumstances, many of which I don't fully understand myself, I am unconscious of those ideas, of their function. There's the wise old man, there's the wise old woman, there's the princess, there's a knight. You know, that's what Jedi are knights. Kind of ties into tarot in a sense. The major archetypes are represented in the major arcana. And then there are archetypal personages contained within the lesser arcana, as well as, I guess, archetypal ideas of certain concepts used as, you know, horoscopic thought items instead of, you know, individual people or characters per se, just concepts. When episode 4 was filmed, of course, there were many shots and storyboards and things that were taken from other films, archetypally so. He wanted the best sunset shot. He wanted the best, I don't know the word for it in the filmmaking terms, the two-person shot, the you know, all of it. He had just got out of film school. It's perfectly natural. His second movie was pretty typical. He did this one with some scope, but he kept to all of these things. And it's almost holographic in its archetypality. So, we meet the young hero. An orphan, raised by someone who's not his parents, lives in the middle of nowhere, doesn't have much to think about. The other night he saw this shit in the sky that was like, what the fuck just happened? And of course, soon after the droids show up, they're looking for help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh, mind you, the entire time, R2-D2 just doesn't speak in words. He makes beeps and clicks. And he is an astromech, which means he's intelligently capable of navigating hyperspace, which is kind of a reference to Dune. The non-human guild navigators. The movie's hopefully coming out next year. Things open up, we'll be able to go see Dune. It'll be epic. So much influence there, in a way. Paul was plucked from his wet Caladan and flung onto the desert world of Arrakis. In a sense, Leto too was plucked from his human life and given into the God Emperorhood. Anakin was plucked from his slave life and brought into mastery and power which is, of course, anti-hero. Luke was born, plucked from his parents, out in the fucking desert. He wants to get away. His friends are gone. The wise old man archetype and this Deus Ex Machina, God is in the machine, this hyper-intelligent BB clicky thing, knows this kid's dad, maybe doesn't realize that's his kid. Do droids understand the Force? You know? How does that work? Let's not get into that, right? Goes on the adventure, tries to save the princess, meets the bad guy. Bad guy kills the master, the wise old man. Once again, the hero is alone. He's got friends now, but what the fuck? Doesn't realize one of them friends is actually his sister. The other guy is kind of not an anti-hero, but he's kind of the Yamcha, the scoundrel that... They call him a scoundrel! Yamcha is a play in Dragon Ball on the Mongolian thief, who is also prominent in movies like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That's Yamcha as a character. He then becomes one of the Guardians of Earth. But that's originally that's the archetype. That's who he was presented as. That character also appears apparently in the Journey to the East. So, very archetypal, from which Dragon Ball's archetypes are also derived. So, the things happen, run and escape, come back and regroup, fight and win, dun dun dun, use the Force, Luke, that moment in the movie where the Force use happens amongst pretty much everyone, all the way across. It's like, if a ripple in the Force had like time effects, it's almost Doctor Who in its presentation. Whovian. I haven't said that word in a while. So, in this one, all we hear about, and I remember growing up, in the original, the story and the telling of Luke's father, oh yes, you fought in the Clone Wars? Yeah, I was once a Jedi Knight, much like the same as your father, and, oh no, my dad was a freighter pilot on a something. No, your dad was not a fucking trucker, dude. Your dad was a goddamn Jedi Knight. Here was his lightsaber. Check it out. Don't point it at your face. So, turns out Luke's a badass pilot. Obi-Wan knew his father, recognizes this guy has Force, says, hey, learn with me. Come with me. Okay, find the Jawas, find the dead parents. Complete orphan. Hero has nothing to lose. No hope equals no fear. Guess we got nothing else to do. Let's go on a fucking quest. That's episode 4. They meet Vader, but we don't know in the plot line at this point that that's the same guy, except that episode 3 we saw him become Darth Vader, right? So we're like, oh shit, let's look at this retroactively in the long chronology of it. Holy shit, dude. That guy you're going to face is your fucking dad, man. That's that boss from before. Oh my gosh. Well, okay. Looking at Dragon Ball, Gohan has a moment or two as the child hero of surpassing everyone else. Also a boss in his own right. Just has to know how to channel it. Luke's time as a Jedi is nothing like Anakin's time as a Jedi. Nor was there any real training if you think about it. The old bum beggar, episode 5 we'll get to, his training was short and inadequate. So, in regard to Anakin Skywalker, we see him lose his shit in a business meeting and start choking the guy under him because he won't shut the fuck up. Right? This dude is still powerful. He has his own combat thing that he flies in and takes dudes out. So, we see in this part that the underlings will do his bidding, but he has no one to talk to except the Emperor. And all the Emperor wants to do is control him, talk about his own plans. This guy is trapped. He's a prisoner of fate.
Salmon Sky. So to cap off this one, we see that, okay, if you go back and look at episodes 1, 2, and 3, there is a little bit of a primer on the dark side contained within, because you do get to see some of the lessons. And when you go back and revisit the end of the previous Sith Lords, Dooku and Maul, who I haven't mentioned yet because they're just kind of more dudes in their own line of a thing, but there's some to what they talk about. So I guess I'll get more into that in episode 5, because then we'll start talking about the little bit of training that Luke did get. I guess Yoda did kind of give him the important bits, I suppose.